Hello and welcome to Let's Compose. You're looking very well. Please pull up a chair, help yourself to some manuscript. I'd like to start by saying hello to all my new subscribers. I've been overwhelmed by the response to the series recently. We're nearly at 100 subscribers and have over 2,000 views across the whole series, which is amazing to me, really. So hello, welcome. I hope you're well. Today we're going to move away from the composing a bit and talk about structure. We haven't yet decided whether it's going to be in movements or it's going to have actions. We know it's about my cycle trip to Italy, but there are so many layers of information I could use to determine the story of the piece. For example, I could tell you about the Italian language. I could talk about the extremes of poverty and affluence we encountered. Or I could use the day that we encountered a sandstorm, for example, that blew the roof off a hotel. Today I'm going to tell you a couple of stories that are mostly likely to make it into the piece. This is the third time I've tried to record this. I had some other stories in it, but they were making the episode over an hour long, and I've already had complaints about being off topic. So today we're just going to talk about the ones that are going to make it into the piece. If you're just interested in me writing notes, then maybe this isn't the episode for you. But this is, to me, very important to the piece. So the first story I'm going to tell you about is really about my relationship with the other cyclists. So it's the first time I'd done anything like this. I knew I was okay on the bike. I didn't know where I'd be placed in the group. Everyone's quite a lot older than me. There are about 36 of us. The first day I left a little late. And but then one by one I passed everyone, and then so I was the fastest in the group for the first week and a half until I got tired, and basically because of this, me being the youngest as well, the fastest and most competitive of the group, that'd be these guys, started measuring up to me. One particular day, late on in the trip, we got to the end of the route, and there was a climb before the road led to the hotel. And I had lost everyone. I thought I was well behind, actually. I'd got lost a few times, and I've no idea where anyone was. The climb itself was just intense. It was massively steep, bigger than 24 degrees slope at one point, and I was just standing on my pedals all the way up, and suddenly everyone caught up with me. And then overtook me. At the top, everyone seemed to stop for a breather. And I thought, bugger it, and just booked it. And everyone just piled in behind me and raced me to the hotel. It was the most incredible end to the day, and we were all just completely knackered after the climb, and I was just going hell for leather. But I lost, definitely. I was beaten by a guy called Carl, who was easily the most experienced cyclist there and probably the fastest. But it was just an amazing sort of clamouring of people trying to get to the hotel before me. So it was a great fun. And that's what I thought would make a exciting end to the piece, possibly. So that's the first story. There's lots more I could tell you about my relationship with the other cyclists, and there are a number of great characters. So it's something that we could possibly play around with, having maybe one or two cyclists at the same time. We've got 4 instruments, and they'd all use the same sort of rhythmic structure, but we could all be pedaling at different rates, for example. So that's something that we could do, something that we could use for the piece. The second story I'd like to tell you about is what the piece is about. I don't really want to make out that this is just a piece about a nice summer holiday. It partly was. That's a bit too mundane for me. There are plenty of sadder things that I could talk about, and it was an amazing trip in that we saw a lot of poverty along the way. We saw a lot of prostitution as well along the way. But I'd like to make this a happy piece, and it's for this reason. So nearly a year ago, I was not a very happy bunny. I was over 19.5 stone. That's 123 kilograms or 273 pounds if you use those systems for weight. And I was depressed, I was tired, and I was overworked. I was really not a very happy bunny. But I was very lucky, and my parents lived in the French Alps. So I moved out there for a while to finish my PhD and to look after myself for a bit. As soon as I got there, I started my program. Now, I didn't diet at all. My main idea was just to get a bit of exercise every day of some sort. It didn't really matter for how long, didn't really matter how intense it was. I'd eat sensibly and just concentrate on making exercise a habit. I started very slow with just walking. Where I am in the Alps, it's very beautiful. You walk out the door and you just go up a mountain. I quickly found that after the initial ascent, although my heart was pounding and sweat was dripping off me, I get to the top and you just see this really beautiful vista. You think, well, maybe I could carry on for a bit. And I'd be up there for hours, burning thousands of calories, and it was great. It's such a motivator for sport, is seeing this beautiful area and being this great place. I was very lucky in many ways. I took up cycling then. And I was given a road bike for my birthday, which made all the difference. I started out on a really heavy mountain bike, which was horrible. My first trip out on the bike, which I think was maybe the 3rd day that I was in France, I got down the hill and then I started to turn back and go up the hill. And this was maybe 10 kilometers at the most. And I just could not. I could not get back up again. I wanted to, I don't know, I wanted to cry. I just felt so disheartened and so horrible about it. Because I used to love cycling. I used to love cycling when I was a kid. And I'd never had that experience where I just didn't want to go on. But luckily, I was given a road bike, which is a nice carbon road bike. It was much, much lighter. And I soon found that I could go up and down the valley. I could go down the hill that I couldn't get back up again, and I could get back up it again nice and easily. And soon I was doing 36, 40 kilometers. I think by the time the snow came in November, I did one trip all the way up the top of the valley and all the way back down again, which is 50 kilometers, and it has a steep ascent of about 700 meters in the middle. And I think I did it in 3.5 hours, which is pretty good for that time because I was huge. I was dragging all of this weight along with me. And there's a horrible picture of me with my bike at that time, and I dwarf it. I'm huge in front of it. And then the snow came, and I took up 3 different types of skiing. I took up ski Downhill skiing, which most of you will know. I took up ski de fond, which is, well, it's not like downhill skiing at all. Ski de fond, you travel along a piste along the ground, and you travel on very thin skatey skis, and you have long poles, and what you do is you push out behind you and you skate. So you push one leg and then the other one, and you have this kind of motion along the ground, and you ski uphill. It's like running on skis. It's very good exercise, and I did it every day. It was I managed to build that up to 25 kilometers along the valley base, which is pretty good. In fact, the place we were at is very good for it. There was a marathon that went through the valley, and I just saw some amazing athletes. So I lost a lot of weight doing that. The other thing I did was ski touring. By the time March came around and the snow all melted, I was around 16 stone. I'd lost a lot of weight. I'd done pretty well over the whole day. Every day I'd kept up something. And most days by then I'd found that I was really enjoying the sport. I was doing what I'd say was a worthwhile workout. I'd go for 30 kilometers at least on the bike, 40 kilometers or so. I'd ski 20, 25 kilometers. I was really kind of getting into it. And then snow melted and I had to prepare for this trip, and so I started to train for 60, became my regular cycle, and then 80, and then 100, and I did the Col de l'Autre, which is nearby. It's very difficult. I mean, by the time I left I was about 15.5 stone for this trip. That is, so it's a bit more like this. And throughout this whole process, a huge life change occurred. Before I knew it, I was absolutely loving the sports I'd taken up. I mean, I really do, and I've since taken up running as well, and I regularly run 10Ks now, and I just absolutely, I could not live life without it anymore. And swimming as well. I'm working to becoming a triathlete. I was a much happier person, and I felt strong and able to cope with things again. This trip, which included over 1,400 kilometers of cycling, was an affirmation to me, and that this was how I wanted to be, and that I could do this despite years of believing that I couldn't. So that's what this piece is really about. If you want to get to the brass tacks of it, I didn't really want to sell it short for you. It's a very personal piece to me, but it's a very happy piece as well. So it's not just about having a nice time riding a bike. It's also about the struggle that got me there, but the life-affirming struggle. How great it is to be able to use my body to be able to do this kind of thing, which in this country, the idea of cycling 100 kilometers a day is nuts. So I'm going to keep it very simple. I might use the first story to provide some interest, the idea of the different cyclists going past each other and that kind of thing. But this idea here, the nature of the struggle and the nature of the exercise, is going to be driving most of the decision making in my head, and has already. So I hope you enjoyed this little story time. Next episode we're going to go back to more about actual composing and the details. Specifically, we're going to talk about pitch content and tonality, which I haven't really dealt with at all yet. Very soon we may be ready to actually start composing the piece. We've got now most of the ideas down. I wanted to talk about these things because it's a good thing for me as well to sift through the information in my head and decide what's the most important information we're going to put into the piece and how we're going to put it in the piece. And I think these things are. So if you liked this video, then please leave a like. If you'd like to receive more of my videos in your feed, then hit the subscribe button just down below. But until then, see you next time. Happy composing. Bye.